Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to explore the Rust programming language. Rust has gained attention because it combines high performance, low-level control, reliability, and memory safety. It is a systems programming language like C and C++, which means it can be used to create software that works closely with computer memory, operating systems, and hardware. Rust began in 2006 as a personal project by Graydon Hoare. Mozilla later supported its development and helped it grow into a powerful open source programming language. Today, major technology companies such as Microsoft, Google, Amazon Web Services, Mozilla, and many others use or support Rust because of its performance, reliability, and safety. Rust is now being used by companies from many different industries, including cloud computing, cybersecurity, software development, networking, and artificial intelligence. Rust is also an exciting language for people who love electronics, robotics, Internet of Things projects, and microcontrollers. For example, you can use Rust to program an ESP32 boards and build embedded systems that interact with sensors, displays, motors, and other electronic components. Because of these capabilities, Rust may become one of the most important programming language for the future of systems and embedded development. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is visit the official Rust website and open the Learn section. Here you can find Rust's official documentation, the installation guide, the Rust programming language book, and other helpful learning resources for beginners. Now let's click Install. I'm using a 64-bit Windows computer, so I'll download the x64 version. If you're using a 32-bit or ARM64 Windows computer, select the appropriate installer. For Mac OS and Linux users, follow the installation instructions provided on the website. I'll save the installer in my Downloads folder. Once the download is complete, let's open the file. Rust may ask you to install the Visual Studio C++ build tools, which are required to compile Rust programs on Windows. Since I already have them installed, the installer automatically proceeds without showing that option. Now let's proceed with the standard installation. On my screen, option 1 is the standard installation. I can press 1 or simply press enter. Now let's wait for the installation process to finish. Great! Rust is now installed. You can return to the Learn section of the Rust website whenever you need to review the complete installation guide. In this video, I'm using Windows and PowerShell. If you're using Mac OS or Linux, follow the installation and instructions for your operating system. Now let's open PowerShell and verify that Rust was installed correctly. If you can see a version number, Rust was installed successfully. Next, let's create a folder where we can store our Rust projects. The mkdir commands means make directory. It creates a new folder named Rust projects inside our home directory. Now let's move into that folder. The cd command means change directory. It moves us into the Rust projects folder. Inside this folder, let's create another folder called Hello World for our first program. I'm using lowercase letters with an underscore between the two words. The underscore is optional, but it improves readability and matches Rust common snake case naming style. Now that our folder is ready, let's open Visual Studio Code. Before writing our program, let's install a few useful VS Code extensions. The first extension is Rust Analyzer. This adds code suggestions, code completion, and error checking to VS Code. Next, we'll install Dependy. This helps us view and manage external libraries for dependencies used by our project. We'll also install even better TOML. This improves editing and error checking for cargo.toml files, which we will see later. Now let's open the folder we created earlier. Click File, select Open Folder, and navigate to your user folder. On my computer, my username and folder location may be different from yours. You should look for the Rust projects folder that you created earlier. Inside the VS Code Explorer, you should now see the Hello World folder. Inside this folder, create a new file named main.rs. The .rs extension identifies the file as Rust source code file. Now let's write our first Rust program. Make sure to save the file. At this point, we can close the separate PowerShell window because we can use the terminal built into Visual Studio Code. To open the VS Code terminal, click Terminal and then select New Terminal. Because we opened the Rust projects folder, the terminal should currently be inside that folder. Let's move into our Hello World folder. Now let's compile our Rust program by typing rustc main.rs. This command compiles our Rust source code and creates an executable file. Now let's run the program. Congratulations, you have successfully created, compiled, and executed your first Rust program. Now let's briefly understand the code. fnmain defines the main function, which is the entry point of a Rust executable program. The code inside the opening and closing curly braces is executed when the program starts. Println or println is a Rust macro used to display text in the terminal. The exclamation mark tells us that println is a macro, not a regular function. We'll discuss macros in more detail in a future tutorial. The text hello world is the argument passed to the macro. It is the value that will be printed on the screen. Finally, the semicolon marks the end of the statement. Now let's go to the Cargo. Cargo is Rust's official build tool and package manager. It is similar to Python's pip or JavaScript's npm, but it can also create, build, run, and manage Rust projects. Now let's move back to the parent folder. We're going to delete the Hello World folder because we'll recreate this project using Cargo. While manually creating and compiling a Rust file is useful for understanding the basics, Cargo is the recommended way to create and manage Rust projects. Now you can see that Cargo has automatically created several files and folders for us. We have a src folder which contains our main.rs file. We also have a .gitignore file, which is used to specify files and folders that Git should ignore. And finally, we have cargo.toml. TOML stands for Tom's Obvious Minimal Language. It is a configuration file format created by Tom Preston Werner. Cargo uses cargo.toml to store information about our package. The package section contains details such as the package name, version, and edition. We also have dependencies section. This is where we can add the external libraries for our project uses. We'll talk more about dependencies and crates later. Since our project currently doesn't use any external libraries, this section is empty. The Rust documentation also explains that a project created without Cargo can later be converted into a Cargo project. However, we deleted our previous Hello World project and recreated it with Cargo to learn the standard way of creating a Rust project. Anyway, let's go into the Hello World folder that Cargo created. Now let's build a project using Cargo build. This creates a target folder containing the build files, including an unoptimized executable that we can run with this command. However, the recommended way to build and run the project is cargo run. You can also use cargo check. This checks whether your code can compile without producing executable use. This checks whether your code can compile without producing an executable, making it faster for quickly checking your code for errors. For an optimized executable, use cargo build -- release. The optimized executable is placed in the target/release folder, and you can run it using cargo run -- release. So cargo run -- release uses the optimized release build, while cargo run uses the unoptimized debug build by default. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope this tutorial was helpful. I'm still learning Rust too, so let's continue learning together. See you in the next one.